Hello and welcome to Still Alive Podcast. This is your host, Orion. Super happy that you're here. Thank you for watching and thank you for listening. You are in for a treat. We have with us the extraordinary leader, best-selling author, powerhouse, and a very sweet, kind, and happy woman. Her name is Marci Shimoff, and she's going to teach you all about happiness and how to be happy for no reason, and how to connect to happiness from an internal place and not from an external place. You're not gonna wait for the next new thing to make you happy. You are going to get incredible tools and techniques, and I really urge you to stick till the end, because she is teaching some incredible processes on how to connect to happiness, how to ground yourself, and be more alive every day. And just these two techniques can change your life. Marci Shimoff is the author of Love for No Reason and Happy for No Reason. She is a best-selling author, and she was also featured on the movie The Secret, and she helped thousands and thousands of people and changed their lives. And now, without further ado, on to the show. Hi, Marci, and welcome to Stellar Life Podcast. It's a pleasure having you here.
Oh, Orion, I'm so happy for great reason to get to be here with you today. I know we're going to have a fabulous conversation.
Thank you. Yeah, I've been following you. I've been listening to your stuff, and you are incredible. And I'm sure that everyone that is going to tune in and watch this video is going to be so much better at the end.
Well, that's our intention. We're setting that as the intention. So.
Yes. So before we start, can you share a little bit about how you came to this passion of helping people with finding happiness and self-love and all that good stuff?
Yeah. So I am the least likely person in the world to be speaking and teaching about happiness and unconditional happiness, because I was born depressed. I joke with people that I came out of the womb with existential angst. I had a great family, great parents, all was well, but I felt as though I had this kind of dark cloud around me. I felt like I was carrying some heavy burden in my heart, and I think I'm an empath, and I think there are a lot of people who are empaths, and they can relate to that. So I grew up really unhappy, and sugar was my medicine. I went to sugar. I became a sugar addict. By the time I was a teenager, I was about 35 pounds overweight, and which of course made me even more depressed. So when I was in my 20s, I figured I got to get a handle on this, and I want to be happy, So I did what most people do when they want to get happy. I set goals for myself. And I figured that once I reached those goals, then I'd be happy. And I'll share with you what those goals were, because I think a lot of people will be able to relate to this. I had 5. I wanted to have a successful career helping people. I wanted to have a wonderful husband or life partner, great friends, a comfortable home, and the equivalent of Halle Berry's body. Now, I got 4 out of the 5. I don't have Halle Berry's body, but I have a healthy body for which I'm very, very grateful. And I will tell you, I worked really, really hard to get all my ducks in a row so that I could be happy. I worked so hard on this. And finally, I had it. I really had it all. And I had a turning point moment. It was in 1998. I had 3 books in the top 5 on the New York Times bestseller list all at the same time. And I had just finished giving a speech to 8,000 people.
Wow.
I had autographed 5,432 books. I felt like an author rock star. And after I autographed that last book, I went up to my hotel room, and it was in Chicago, and it had this huge, beautiful view, these big windows viewing over out onto Lake Michigan. And I was literally feeling like I was, on top of the world physically. But
Mm.
I went over to the window, I took in that beauty, I turned around and I fell onto the bed and I burst into tears. And I burst into tears because I realized I had worked so hard my whole life to get what I thought I needed to be happy, and I still wasn't. And I realized that I could no longer fool myself into thinking that just the next thing was going to make me happy. And so I still had felt that deep emptiness and depression inside that I'd had in my heart from childhood.
Mm.
So I totally quit what I was doing. I didn't totally quit it, but I took a lot of time to dive into the subject of happiness. And I interviewed all of the researchers in the field of positive psychology and happiness. And I interviewed 100 what I call unconditionally happy people. And I started doing what they were doing. And it worked. I would say back then, if you were giving me a grade in happiness, I would have gotten a D plus. I was almost failing in happiness. Now I am a solid A. And that doesn't mean that I'm not still working on it. I am a work in progress. I think we're works in progress for the rest of our lives. But it means that it's solid. And even when stuff goes on, like stuff going on in the world, like what we have now, there's still this feeling of deep inner happiness that I carry with me.
That's
So what I found
beautiful.
is that this is possible for anybody, and I'm passionate about this, and I'm passionate about sharing it. So I know that we're going to get into some really practical things today that people can do to be happier immediately.
Right. What was the most surprising thing that you found talking to
Mm.
all these people? Did you find something in common?
So I found out a couple of things that really made sense to me. The first one that to me of the research, out of all the research, it was like the light bulb went off in my head, and it was that we all have a happiness set point. And
Mm.
it's like a thermostat setting. And no matter what happens, whether it's good or bad, we're going to hover around this thermostat setting unless we do something consciously to change that. And this explained a lot to me. This explained why there are, some people are just, you call them born happy.
Hmm.
They just have a high happiness set point. And I wasn't one of those people. And no matter what I would do to get happier, I'd be happier for a little while, but then I would very soon return to my original happiness set point. So I saw that, man, it's that set point that's really the key to happiness. And so you probably wonder, what is the set point made of? So let me just tell you about that because it's like that was the eye-opening piece. The set point is only 10% our circumstances.
Mm.
That's why going after changing anything in life is only going to give us a temporary high. I mean, even people who win the lottery, think all I'd have to do is win the lottery and I'd be happier.
Hmm.
No, you'd be happier for a little while, but they found that within a year, people who win the lottery are back to their original happiness set point.
Right.
So because it's only 10% our circumstances, 50% of it is our genetics.
Yeah.
Now, I was not born with a good genetics for happiness. But the other 40% is our habits of thoughts and behavior. And that's what we can really do the most to change to raise our set point. But what I'm going to take this a step further and say there are scientists in the field of epigenetics like Dr. Bruce Lipton, who wrote the
I love
biology
him.
book.
Yeah.
Isn't he awesome?
Yes.
And he and many others will say that those genes, that 50% that's genetic, that even that can be influenced when we change our habits of thoughts and behavior. So that means that 90% of our happiness set point can be changed by changing some simple habits. I don't know about you, but I think that should be headline news. That should be like, here's happiness is the thing we've all wanted forever.
Hmm.
And we know how to get there. We know the habits of happy people. And I just found out from you that you have a beautiful 8-month-old baby.
Yeah, it's so cute.
Better thing to give a baby, to give a child, than to allow them to grow up with a high happiness set point, to
Hmm.
set their happiness set point. So
Yeah.
that thrilling.
I just had a conversation with my client, and I found out that regardless of the amazing things that she achieved in her life, she never stopped to celebrate. She doesn't celebrate the small moments of achievements. She doesn't celebrate the big moments of achievements. She said, I'm afraid I might jinx it. So she walks through life without even giving herself that moment of happiness, that moment of like, I did it, that moment of reassurance. And there are so many people and they have the house, the car, the trophy wife, and still they don't stop to smell the roses. And I believe that acknowledging every moment and instead of like, I'm gonna be happy when I'm gonna have this and that, this is not the way. You are happy now. Happiness is the way. It's not the goal to happiness that will make you happy. It's the way to happiness. And stopping to smell the roses, which is something that I do with my baby. We have roses outside, and then we smell the roses.
I so love what you're saying. It is absolutely 100% true, everything you said. We have this myth of happiness, and it's exactly what you said. It's the I'll be happy when syndrome. Mm-hmm. I'll be happy when I get a better job, or when I make more money, and then those things happen, and we're happier for a short period of time, but it doesn't last. And it doesn't last because it doesn't affect because it doesn't raise our set point, and because we can't even receive or appreciate what it is we currently have. That principle of appreciating, savoring, taking in what we currently have is so important. There's a saying that what you appreciate appreciates.
Yes.
What you appreciate grows stronger in your life. Mm-hmm. So when we can actually stop and go, right now, in this very second, we all have so many things we could appreciate. And I would love everybody right now, in this just moment right now, just look around you and just feel into you and find 3 things right now that you can deeply appreciate. I'll tell you right now, I am looking out at the most beautiful trees. They're fabulous. I appreciate that I'm getting to have this conversation with you that's about something that I'm so passionate about. And I appreciate that I feel good in my body right now. So everybody can find 3 things. Can you find 3 things right now?
Oh, I found like a million. The first thing I saw was your image, on video, and I was really appreciative of you and your wisdom and having this conversation with you. And the beautiful flowers behind you and this background and it makes me happy to see this image with all the pink and the green and the colors and your radiant energy. It makes me happy. So I appreciate that. I appreciate my mic. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, you got a really cool microphone.
Everything. Just like being able to be here, sitting on this nice desk, looking out the window, seeing the tree, everything. I love it.
So can I explain why this matters and why this works?
Please do.
It sounds so simplistic. Everybody talks about all of this. But let me talk about why this works the way that it does.
Yes.
The average person has 60,000 thoughts a day. And for the average person, 80% of those thoughts are negative. It's called the negativity bias. We inherited it from our cavemen ancestors who needed to really focus on the negatives or they would die. Mm-hmm. But we no longer have that tendency the way that they needed it back then. And yet we haven't really caught up to changing our brains. A friend of mine, Rick Hansen, who wrote the Hardwiring Happiness. He calls it the Velcro Teflon syndrome. He says that our minds are like Velcro for the negative. The negatives just stick to us. And they're like Teflon for the positive. The positives slide right off of us. Now, what we've found is that happier people have reversed that tendency. They have found ways to Teflon the negative, let those go, and Velcro the positives. And what that does is it creates new neural pathways in the brain for the positives. Now, let me give you an example, and then I'm going to tell you how you do that. Very simple 3 steps. So most people, let me just ask you this. Well, you might have actually learned better, but perhaps the earlier version of you. If you get 10 compliments and 1 criticism in a day, what do you tend to remember?
The one criticism still, even though in my mind I know that I should remember the accolades or the compliments, right. But what goes in is, oh, they said something wrong. Somebody said something wrong about me. Yeah. I mean, of course, like now it's way better than in my 20s.
Yes.
Because awareness and knowledge is power, and implemented knowledge is even more power. And still, sometimes this is true till this day.
So the reason I use that example is that it's a tendency we all go to, is believing the negative, letting that stick, and sort of sloughing off the positive. Happy people do the opposite. So here's what the brain researchers have said about how to Velcro the positives. There are 3 steps. Number 1, be on the lookout for them. We've got to be on the lookout for the positive. One of the women that I interviewed in my book, Happy for No Reason, she pretends that she's the Academy Awards committee. And her job every day is to give out 5 Academy Awards. So she's always on the lookout, like what's worthy of an Academy Award today. So she'll be walking down the street and she'll see a cute little fluffy white dog and she'll think, oh, that dog gets the cutest dog of the day award. So if you have children, play this with them as a game.
That's so
to
cool.
Be on the lookout for the positives. So that's step number 1. Step number 2, very, very important. Savor the positives. And what that means is it actually takes 20 seconds for us to take in the positives deeply enough that they will create new neural pathways in the brain. So you can't just notice something and go, okay, that's a cute dog, and walk away, or okay, that's a beautiful sunset, and walk away. You need to be with that experience of it and even feel it in your body, savor it like you're taking in this delicious dessert for 20 seconds or longer. So if you do see this cute little dog, you might go up to the owner and you might say, of course, these days being 6 feet socially distanced from them, you might go up to the owner and say, oh, that dog is the cutest dog. I give out these Academy Awards every day, and your dog gets the Academy Award for being the cutest dog of the day. And you take it into your heart, you let it settle in your body rather than just notice it and run away. What we want to do is we want to get in the habit of savoring the good for at least 20 seconds. So that's the second step. First is notice, second is savor. And the third step is to go for what we call the 3-to-1 ratio. 3 positives to every 1 negative. So if you are stuck,
I heard it was 5-to-1.
Yeah. I good for you, man. You are on this. There are different statistics. And what I find is 5-to-1 is ideal. But it's a little hard to start there. Okay. So I tend to start people a little bit more easily with 3-to-1. So if you had 1 negative, switch it over, focus on 3 positives. When it comes to relationships, the research on relationships shows that you need 5 positives in a relationship to every 1 negative. So that means if you're being negative with your partner, you've got to replace it with 5 positives.
It's almost like people don't hear it when you say, oh, you're beautiful. They're like, oh, you're beautiful. No, you're really you are so beautiful. You are beautiful. And they're like, oh, thank you.
We need to really be in the habit of taking it in. Because as you know, what happens when you have neural pathways established in the brain for the negative, that's what you tend to see. We notice what we're looking for. Yeah. So, and what we put our attention on.
What is it called?
It's called selective. It's called
activated system. Something.
Reticular activating.
Reticular. Yeah.
Thank you.
No, thank you.
Together we can come up with that.
Yeah. So if you look for red, if you look for the color red, you'll see it everywhere. If you look for a BMW, you'll see the same car everywhere. As soon as you put your attention into something, you're gonna start seeing it because your brain will lock on that. And because we get so much, we are bombarded by so much information. So your brain is sifting and sorting through your habits and your values. So if you focus on happiness, if you focus on the Academy Awards, you're going to start seeing them. You're going to start noticing them. And then, like you said, the path of happiness in the brain is going to open. And instead of being sad, depressed, stressed as a default, which are valid emotions we all need to feel, your default will become the path of happiness.
Yes. Yes. You are spot on with all of this. Now, I do want to say something though that I think some people can really misinterpret.
Okay.
Or not misinterpret, but I think that there's a concept out there that all you have to do is change your thoughts and then you can be happy. Just decide to be happy. And what I found is that that's not exactly true. That when I interviewed all these people on happiness, I found that there were 21 main happiness habits that people practice, and they fell into 7 main categories. And you could have one of those categories really working well for you, or many of them, but if one of them isn't working well, then it's going to really impact your happiness. So maybe shall I go through what these
please.
7 areas are?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
You know, I found it that it's hard for people to remember 7 of anything, so I created an analogy or a metaphor. I call it building your inner home for happiness. And a home has 7 main components to it. It's got a foundation, it's got 4 corner pillars, it's got a roof, and it's got a garden.
Nice.
And this is how it relates to these 7 areas of happiness. And as I go through these, what I want everyone to do who's listening is I want you to think to yourself, where am I the weakest? Because wherever you're the weakest, that's where I'm going to suggest you start to raise your happiness set point, because that's where you're going to get the most shift the most quickly. So here's how these 7 areas go. The foundation is about taking responsibility for your life and for your happiness.
So powerful.
So if you tend to be what I call a victim in life, and victims, a victim when you are stuck in blaming, shaming, or complaining. Blaming other people, shaming, which means blaming yourself, feeling shame or embarrassment, and complaining. When you're in any of those, you are in the victim mode and it's almost impossible to be happy. So that's the first area. Then the 4 corner pillars are the pillars of the mind, the heart, the body, and the soul. The mind, we just spoke about. Do your thoughts support your happiness? The heart, do you live with an open heart? Do you have gratitude and love and forgiveness and generosity of spirit? Every happy person I've ever known has an open heart. Then there's the body. Do you have the biochemistry of happiness? Do you have enough serotonin and oxytocin and endorphins, the neurochemicals of happiness? And by the way, that's where I was the weakest my whole life. And there's some very specific things that you can do if you don't have the biochemistry for happiness that you can shift. And then there's the pillar of the soul. And the pillar of the soul is about our spirit. Do you feel connected to a greater energy in life? And that could be, I don't know, it doesn't matter what you call it. That could be God, the divine, creative intelligence, nature, the one, doesn't matter. It's just a sense of, do you feel your spiritual connection to life? Then there's the roof of your home for happiness, and that's your inspiration, your purpose in life. Are you living your purpose? I believe we're all here on the planet for a reason. Are you doing what it is you're here to be doing? And then finally, there's the garden, and the garden has to do with who you surround yourself with. Are you surrounded with roses and gardenias, the people who just support your happiness? Or are you surrounded with some weeds, some people who are dragging down your happiness? And so those are the 7 areas. And Orion, I'm going to ask you to be a guinea pig here and to share with us, out of those 7 areas, where do you think you're the weakest?
Uh, wow. I have to go through the garden and the roof and the pillars.
Okay, so the foundation is taking responsibility for your happiness.
Got
And
that?
then there's the pillar of the mind,
Yes.
your thoughts, the pillar of the heart, living with an open heart, the
Yes.
pillar of the body, your biochemistry, the pillar of the soul, your spiritual connection. Your roof is your inspiration or passion in life, and then the garden is who you surround yourself with. So, where do you think?
I think for me, it's a little bit of the biochemistry,
Hmm.
because since I gave birth, I mean, even through my pregnancy was very difficult, and I gave birth through a C-section, and
Mm.
the recovery from the surgery and all that, like I used to be super strong in my body and very flexible, and then I just everything stopped. I used to train 5 times a week. So I,
Wow.
I think for me, yeah, I did stuff like Tough Mudder and things like that.
Mhm.
So I think for me, it's connecting more to my physical well-being. I also used to do S Factor, which is sensual movement and all that. And
Yes, I know S Factor.
yes,
My coaches are used to were very involved, had an S Factor thing going. Yeah.
yeah. So S Factor is, to people that don't know, it's pole dancing, but it's connecting to your body and connecting to your feminine essence, and it's more than just pole tricks. It's almost like a feminine spiritual journey, if
Yeah.
if you may. So uh yeah, I used to do that, and I miss that. I miss moving my body. Even like, for me, the C-section is almost like it I felt like it divided my body in two, that
Mm.
curtain, like that, the
Mm-hmm.
metaphor. So it took me
Mm-hmm.
a while to, like, you know almost like, because it was unexpected, I planned a beautiful water home birth. And I had
Mm.
to end up in the and I had the team here, and I had a doctor, and it was amazing, and I was in labor for 12 hours, fully dilated, ready to ready to go. And then
Wow.
boop, I had to go to the hospital. And it was also a lesson in manifestation. I was always really cocky and proud of myself for being able to manifest things. And like, I'm gonna manifest this the way it should be. This is
Right,
how it's
right.
going to work, and it worked exactly the opposite. And I also know you need to look at the bigger picture, and whatever my soul had to experience, however this baby wanted to come to the world, it's his journey. It's his, there is a bigger force in all this, and now I can see it. But when I was in it, it was hard.
Yeah.
And especially because I learned to be so connected to my body, having this disconnect was hard on me, and I'm slowly like getting into that movement, into that flow, into
Mm-hmm.
strengthening myself. I also had injuries. I had like shoulder injury and wrist injuries since the giving birth, so it really threw me off. So for me, definitely the biochemistry, and also mindset. Even though I learned about mindset and I teach mindset, um, with COVID-19 and everything that's going
Mm-hmm.
on, and I'm definitely into conspiracy theories that I believe some of them are not conspiracy.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm worried about the future. I'm worried about where this country is heading. I'm worried about uh, forced vaccinations. I'm worried about implanting a barcode or a chip in our babies or even in ourselves. I'm worried about 5G. I'm worried about those things.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, and I know I should not focus on them, but sometimes I go there. And I think this can take away of my happiness.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you for sharing that. I so appreciate your sharing that, and I can relate to the idea of thinking that I spent much of my life thinking that I should be the general manager of the universe as well. I know how this should go, and it should look like this. And there's that joke about tell God your plans, and God laughs or something. So here's a really interesting thing I learned when I interviewed these happy people. They all believed that the universe was a benevolent universe. Einstein said that the most important question we can ask ourselves is this a friendly universe?
Mm.
And that doesn't mean that everything goes the way you want it to go or the way you think it should go. But what it means is that these people, these happy people, believe that the universe is on their side, that the universe wants for their highest and best good. That instead of being a paranoid, you're an inverse paranoid, that the universe is for me. And so happy people believe that. And so I always say to people, one of the questions that I think is very valuable to ask is, if this were happening for a higher purpose, what might that be? So, for your situation where it didn't go the way you wanted it to go, but if you truly believe that it's a friendly, benevolent universe that's on your side, then it happened for your highest good.
Yeah,
And
I
we
do
may not be
believe
able to
that.
see it in
Yes.
that time. Yeah, and it's easier to see it later on. But what I've found is that people, when people are, even right now, going through the pandemic that we're in, I can't answer why it's happening for the planet. I
Hmm.
do know that more has been done to reverse the ill effects of pollution in the last 2 months that's been done in the last 30 years.
Mm.
The
Yeah.
planet is being restored. There are some really amazing resets happening. So I can't know it for the planet, but I can ask that question for my own life. If this is happening right now for a particular reason to support me, for a lesson or a gift in this, what might that be? And I would invite everybody to ask that question for themselves right now in their life.
Yeah, and I think that's why the garden is so important, and the people you surround yourself with, because people like you, your loved ones, people that are have your best interest in heart, and maybe are awakened, they will lift you up. They
Yeah.
will lift you up, because we all go into, sometimes we go down rabbit holes, sometimes we feel stressed and depressed. It's hard not to, for an empath, it's hard not to feel the heaviness and the stress.
Yeah.
It's enough to go to the supermarket and see people like
Right,
all
with their mask.
scared, or even down the street. I start talking to people down the street without uh, any attachment to the consequences. Like, if they're afraid, they're afraid. But I find that lately more people are trying to connect, because I think it's really important for us to connect.
Mm-hmm.
That social distancing is a bad word. Physical distancing, not social. We still need to be social.
And I think that what I've seen is that there is that, and there's also so much deeper connection.
Yeah.
I think it's really bringing people together. When
Yeah.
I go on a physically properly distanced hike, which I do regularly, I see all kinds of people who are out that wouldn't normally be out on that hike, and there's just this unity, this connection. And can I share one thing though that people can do if they feel that the body they don't have the neurochemistry of happiness?
Even more than that, like, as much as you want to share, please. This is important.
Okay. So I am serotonin is the happiness chemical that is one of the most important happiness chemicals, serotonin.
Hmm.
If you crave a lot of sugar like I did, it's probably because you're low in serotonin.
Mm.
Um, there is a very simple way to raise your serotonin. And I learned this from a Qigong master whose name is Gilles Marin. And it also will help you with your sleep.
Mm.
So it's good for everybody. And it doesn't take much time. It's called a sunning meditation. Now, people freak out when they hear sunning meditation. Don't worry, you're not going to be in the sun for more than about 3 minutes. So here's what you do. 3 minutes twice a day. You go outside into the sun. And if there's no sun, if there's clouds, if there's a little bit of sun coming through the clouds, that's okay too. If it's raining, I'll tell you what else you can do instead. But you go outside and you stand facing the sun with your eyes closed. This is super important. You close your eyes. And with your eyes closed, you let the sunlight come in through your closed eyelids and nourish and feed your pineal gland. Your pineal gland is in the center of your head, behind the optic nerve. And what it will do is it will start stimulating more serotonin in your body. You just do that for about 3 minutes. Just feel as though you are soaking in that life force from the sun and that it's feeding your pineal gland. If you do that twice a day for 1 week, it will raise your happiness set point. It will raise your serotonin, and that will shift your happiness set point.
That's amazing.
Something that simple. But make sure you're hearing me. Your eyes are closed as you're facing the sun.
Right.
And if there is no sun out, you can just look at something very beautiful. Beauty will also create a similar experience. Natural beauty, look at a tree or a flower. But it is more ideal if you can do it with the sun.
That's beautiful. And can you also take us through an exercise? You taught this on one of the podcasts that I listened to, where you put your hand on your heart.
Yes, I'd love to share that.
Yes, please.
This is an exercise that I learned from the Institute of Heart Math. They're the world's leading researchers on the heart and happiness. They've found that 5 minutes of us being angry or upset can weaken our immune systems for up to 6 hours. Whereas 5 minutes of us feeling grateful and joyful and loving will strengthen our immune systems for up to 6 hours. And right now, we all want to have strong immune systems. So this is a simple exercise. We're not even going to do 5 minutes. We're going to just do about a minute or two. And I think you'll feel the difference. So again, Orion, I'm going to ask you to be my guinea pig with this. So what we're going to do, and you can do this with your eyes opened or closed, but I think it goes deeper when your eyes are closed. So we're going to close our eyes. So if you can close your eyes. And it's 3 steps. So the very first step is to simply place the palm of your hand over your heart. And that simple act of putting your hand over your heart starts the flow of a different chemical, a good one called oxytocin. Oxytocin is dubbed the bonding hormone because it's what we have a lot of when we're bonded with each other. So right now, Orion, you have a lot of oxytocin in your system because you're breastfeeding. Women who are breastfeeding have lots of oxytocin, but just putting your hand over your heart stimulates the flow of oxytocin. Now, the second step is to imagine that you're breathing in and out of your heart. Your breath is going into your heart. Your breath is going out of your heart. You're inhaling into your heart at your own pace and exhaling out of your heart. It's called heart-focused breathing. Now, just these 2 things, you may already be noticing a shift. But here's the real big shifter. Third step. On each inhale, I want you to imagine that you're breathing in gratitude, compassion, and ease. Or love, compassion, and ease. So each in-breath, breathe in ease, breathe in love, breathe in compassion at your own pace, focusing on those in-breaths, taking those in. Now you can either remember a time you felt that, or you can bring to mind somebody or even a four-legged that helps you feel love and ease and compassion. Or you can just say the words internally to yourself: love, ease, compassion. And one more deep breath, breathing in love, ease, and compassion into your heart. And on the exhale, you can slowly take your hand away. And when you feel ready, you can slowly open your eyes. And as you open your eyes, I want you to just notice, how do you feel? How do you feel in your body? How do you feel emotionally? What has shifted? And so, Orion, you were my guinea pig for this. Tell me, what's shifted for you?
For me, I did this yesterday. And today I did it again with you in person. And I feel more grounded. I feel like I'm buzzing. A little bit like more energized. And it's not this like, I'm energized. It's this calm
energy.
Yeah, calm, grounded energy.
Yeah.
I just feel happy.
Beautiful, beautiful. So all of these that you've mentioned are signs that you're moving into what science calls the love response. And the love response has its own unique brain waves, its own unique heart rhythms, and its own unique biochemistry. And other people may have found felt something different. Some people feel tingling in their hands or warmth in their heart, or maybe just a peacefulness. All of those are signs of going into the love response. Now, here's the trick to this. Doing it once is just a nice experience. It won't create consistent, lasting change. And what we want is lasting change. So what I suggest is you do this simple exercise 2 or 3 times a day for the next week and notice how you feel different.
Amazing.
So,
I wish we had more time. I find right. I wanna speak with you for a few more hours at least, but we are running out of time, and I want to be respectful of your time. So before we say goodbye for now, what are your 3 top tips to live in a stellar life, and where can people find you?
So my top tip number 1 is to honor your heart. We are wise beings. Listen to your heart and honor it. Top tip number 2 is to find wherever you're weakest in your happiness set point and raise that. And tip number 3 is know that we live in a loving and compassionate universe, and ask, and be grateful. Live in gratitude. I have all 21 of the happiness habits. I created a little workbook. It's called the Happy for No Reason workbook. And in it is every one of the 21 happiness habits, along with a practice for each one that you can do in your own life. And I am offering that to everyone here as my gift. It's at happyfornoreason.com, and you can just go there and find that as a gift right there for you.
Awesome, Marci. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you. And
Orion, I appreciate you. Is there one little last words I can share?
Yes, please. Go ahead.
Because people always ask me, isn't this selfish? You're just wanting your own happiness, but what about the world? And I want to say that I believe the best thing that we can possibly do to contribute to this planet of ours is to be more of our own light, our true essence, to be happier. And so I love to share this Chinese proverb because it sums up that philosophy. It goes like this. It says, when there is light in the soul, there will be beauty in the person. When there is beauty in the person, there will be harmony in the house. When there is harmony in the house, there will be order in the nation. And when there is order in the nation, there will be peace in this world. And my prayer and my wish for every one of us, everyone who's here right now, is that we all know that light in our own souls. And through that, we help create more peace here on this planet of ours.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you, listeners. Thank you for the people who's watching. Remember to honor your heart, raise your happiness thermostat, and live in gratitude, because we do live in a friendly universe and have a stellar life. This is Orion. Till next time.